and welcome back to Seek the Joy podcast. It is not Seek the Joy Tuesday, but it is Seek the Joy Thursday. I'm your host, Sydney Weiss, and I really wanted to record a solo episode, a bonus solo episode. It has been so long since I have done this. Admittedly, I know that a solo episode has been totally rare in 2021. So hello. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you are excited about the summer. I know I certainly am. I want to come on here and talk to you about this sense of excitement mixed with overwhelm, mixed with apprehension about this new season, because we're not only just walking into the summer, which is always busier, which is always warmer, which is always such a beautiful time. And last year, during the height of the pandemic, we didn't really have a summer in the way that we are used to, that we're accustomed to. And this year, and granted, this is going to totally depend on where you are in the world and what the situation of the pandemic looks like for you, both on a community level, but also on an individual and personal level. But I feel like the world, especially as we enter the summer season this year, is really starting to ramp up again, and in a really, really big way. And so if you're anything like me, you're probably feeling like this return to normal is kind of great, but it's also mixed with this real sense of overwhelm. And so I've been thinking a lot lately, like, okay, how can I navigate this time? And how can I navigate this time in a way that both honors my desire and excitement to see people and be back out into the world and see my friends and see family and coworkers and everything else in between, and simultaneously allows me to preserve and hold on to all of the good and new habits and ways of being that I've developed over the last year. And I'm talking about ways to practice self-care. I'm talking about boundaries. I'm talking about new routines that I've developed or established for myself that actually feel really good. And I've been thinking a lot too, like in concert with wanting to allow myself to really navigate this time. For me, it feels like I also need to get to the root of this overwhelm that I've been feeling. And I'll share a practice with you, and it's not innovative. It's nothing brand new, but it's been helpful for me. So I hope that it's helpful for you too. To get to the root of the overwhelm, I've been asking myself, why? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so overwhelmed? Why do I feel overstimulated? Why? And for me, it really comes down to not feeling prepared. Like I won't have the stamina or be able to tolerate certain things or speak up for what it is that I need. And so instead of pushing those feelings, that sense of overwhelm away and telling myself, oh, I'll get to it later, which is something I do all the time, I've been trying to allow myself to sit with it and sit with those feelings and work through them in the moment. And when I do allow myself to ask myself why and really understand that it comes down to not feeling prepared, I have been trying to think about what will help me feel more prepared. So this is where I really think we start to bring in things that we feel really good and positive about and start to think about, okay, what can we do? What can I do to support myself? There are 3 things that I've been doing. One is prioritizing things, which I think is huge. Making sort of like a ranking to-do list of things that are like number 1 through, let's just say number 10, because I'm not going to totally out myself here and tell you how much is on my to-do list. But I think figuring out a way to prioritize things for yourself really helps to cut down on that overwhelm. The second thing is prioritize saying no, like the power of saying no. Over the last year, I've said no more than ever. No to things that made me uncomfortable, no to situations that made me feel uneasy. And it also revealed to me who I really want to spend my time with and what it is that I want to do how I'm spending my time. And I have a feeling you probably feel that way too. So we're going to get a lot more invitations as the world starts to open up, as we hit the summer season. And I think there's a lot of power in saying no. And as Megan Watson said last week on the podcast, say no and say no often. The third thing that I've been doing to, I think, really support myself during this time is just continue to give myself grace and an understanding that I can create my own pace. Like, just sit with that for a second. We, you, I can create our own pace. We don't have to go as fast or as slow as anybody else. We get to choose, we get to dictate for ourselves how slow or how fast that we move. I think that's a big and important reminder, and something that I continue to remind myself daily, because lately it's felt like my foot is like back on the accelerator permanently. There's like a brick attached to it. I can't get it off. And I've been thinking a lot lately, like, is this what life was like pre-pandemic? And I just didn't remember. Like, I didn't remember moving this fast all the time. And I think that speed, that moving so quickly, that having so much more on our plates, so much more going on than we are used to, for me, that is contributing so much to the overwhelm. And so then, of course, I've been thinking, okay, then how do I strike a balance between going back into the world and seeing friends, seeing family, seeing coworkers, everything else in between, with maintaining my own self-care, my own boundaries, and my own joy? I think this is what we have to do. And I'm curious if this is something that feels good to you, if it resonates. Send me a DM at Seek the Joy Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Let me know. I think we have to start to think about what it is that we loved about the last year. And this isn't to take away from the hardship, the difficulty, and the loss of the last year, because it has certainly been heavy and incredibly difficult, and a time of grief and sadness, and also resilience, and also joy. I think we have to think about what it is that we loved about the last year. Was it more time with your family? Did you have more time to yourself in the morning or during the day, or just more time to yourself in general? Were you able to, spend more time doing something that you loved? Did you incorporate greater self-awareness and self-care? Did you develop greater compassion for yourself and understanding? Did you dive into a new practice, a new exercise routine? Did you start cooking for yourself and eating differently? Whatever it is that you loved about the last year, we need to plan to bring that with us into this new chapter. I think it's about finding ways to integrate what you loved about this last year into the summer, into this time as the world begins to open up and ramp up and return to whatever normal is going to look like, and keep those things and find ways to schedule them or have an action plan around it to bring in this greater sense of self-care and mindfulness, to allow ourselves ultimately to stay grounded in the moment. So I'll share with you what it is that I really loved about the last year. It was the time I had for myself in the morning. I wasn't rushing to get out the door and to get dressed. Like, of course, I still get dressed in the morning, but I'm not, doing my hair and my makeup and picking out an outfit. My outfit consists of sweatpants and a fresh t-shirt and, brushing my hair and making myself look presentable for Zoom. And so that afforded me more time in the morning to be creative and to record episodes for this podcast, or go on a walk, or just spend time with myself in a way that I haven't been able to over the last 2 years. Something else that I really loved about this last year was I no longer felt any pressure to go out or do things that I wasn't excited about. And so as I move into this new chapter, I really am excited to continue to find ways to spend time with myself during the day. And whether that means I wake up a little bit earlier so I have a couple of extra moments in the morning because I'm returning to an office in a couple of weeks, or whether that means making sure I take a lunch break and going on a walk, or in the evenings, just making sure I have time to be creative and throw myself into doing something for the podcast. And I think the second thing I shared about no longer feeling that pressure to do things I wasn't excited about, I just am going to keep reminding myself that I get to spend time with the people that I love, that I care about, who fill up my tank, and I get to do the same for them. And if it's not there, if I don't feel that about a certain person or activity or thing, I'm not going to pressure myself to go out and do something that isn't going to ultimately bring me joy and make me feel fulfilled. And I just think that is like the biggest thing I've taken from the last year. Well, not the biggest, but definitely like top five for sure. And so in reflecting on what we loved about the last year, I think we also need to think about, okay, what can we learn from these moments of joy, from these things that made us feel nourished or celebrated over the last year? And how can we be present with this sense of joy, nourishment, celebration? How can we be present with the good stuff, the things that we learned over the last year, and continue to integrate them and bring them into this new chapter? And so I think if you spend some time thinking about what it is that you loved about the last year, what it is that you enjoyed doing over the last year, and you start to think about how you can continue to fuse those things into this new chapter as we emerge back into the world, whatever that's going to look like, I really think that's how we're going to connect or continue to connect to our joy as we enter this new season, as things speed up again. Like I said, I have no idea what this is going to look like, but so far, it's feeling like a lot. And don't get me wrong, there's so much that we learn from hardship and obstacle, but I've been really challenging myself a lot over the last year to not only feel gratitude for the joyful moments, but ask myself what it is that I can learn from those moments too. There's something that a friend of mine says. His name is Aiden Chase, and he's been on the podcast, and he was part of our Seek the Joy Summit back in April. He always says, where attention goes, energy flows. So what is it that you are going to choose to focus on and focus your energy on as we enter this new chapter, as we enter this new summer season, as we strive to continue to seek our joy and reconnect with it? It's so funny because we talk so much about this, about how to navigate this new season, this sense of overwhelm mixed with excitement in our summer series that actually goes live this Sunday, June 20th, the summer solstice. And I hope that you'll sign up if you aren't already. It's going to be so beautiful. I walked away from every single session feeling inspired, energized, renewed, refreshed. I mean, every session and conversation with a speaker who is part of our Seek the Joy Summer Series was it's just so good. And I cannot wait for you to soak in this inspiration, the goodness, and just the truly wonderful conversation. So the link to register, it is totally free, is in the show notes for today's new episode. Or you can go to seekthejoypodcast.com/seekthejoysummer to sign up and register. We have a beautiful solstice meditation. We have a yoga flow and community chat, a sound bath, a sound healing, and then workshops on sanctuary, the power of play, tapping into the summer energy, and then how to practice and hone in on our self-care during this summer season. I'm telling you, all of these sessions are so beautiful, and I am so excited for you to attend and be part of this. The link to register is in the show notes, or go to seekthejoypodcast.com/seekthejoysummer. You will have access to all of these pre-recorded sessions and workshops for 2 weeks through July 4th. So I really hope to see you there and that you'll be part of this. I am really excited for the summer, and I'm really excited for some shifts and changes in my own personal life and schedule, and more of that to come in a future episode, I have no doubt. And as always, just thank you for being here and for tuning in to Seek the Joy podcast. And I'm so excited to hear what you think about today's bonus solo episode. Share with me what you think. Join the conversation on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are at Seek the Joy podcast everywhere. No matter where you're listening, make sure you hit follow and leave us a 5-star rating and review. I know I say this like basically every week. Ratings and reviews really help the show get seen by new people, and share with anybody who's checking us out what Seek the Joy podcast is all about. So when you leave that review, when you leave that 5-star review, take a screenshot and send it to Sydney at seekthejoypodcast.com. I will send you something to say thank you, and it is always a wonderful way for us to connect outside of the show. That's really all I've got for today's bonus solo episode. I'm probably going to call this like reconnecting to joy this summer, but I think beyond that, it's about thinking about what it is that we loved about the last year, and that's how we're going to stay grounded in this new season and in this new chapter, because so much of joy is about how we ground ourselves in the present moment, how we allow ourselves to experience and be present in the here and now. And there's so much good stuff, really, that came out of the last year. And like I said, it's not to dismiss or undermine the hardship and the loss, but I have been really challenging myself to not only celebrate the good and celebrate the joy, but ask myself, what is it that I can learn from these moments? So thank you for tuning in. I never know how to end a solo episode. I really don't, but excited to hear what you think about this one. Oh, last thing I want to tell you, if you're not already on our newsletter, get on the Seek the Joy list is what I'm calling it. I share really good stuff week in, week out. It's the best way to know what's going on with me and what's going on with the podcast outside of our weekly episodes. So the link to sign up is in our show notes, or go to seekthejoypodcast.com/subscribe. And now I'm really going to say goodbye. That's really all I've got for you. And I'll see you next week for another Seek the Joy Tuesday. Bye, guys.